The story begins in a lush forest where a party of young, unlikely fighters are having a hard time hunting down a couple of goblin, the weakest monster in all of Grimgar, a world where one must kill in order to survive. Unable to hunt the goblin, Haruhiko wakes up the next day with Ranta only to find Moguzo and Minato doing morning chores in their stead. Yume and Chihoru are helping them too. After the breakfast is prepared, the party sits together to discuss this bizarre world, Grimgar, where the last thing they all remember is waking up in a dark building along with a bunch of strangers and getting taken to an eccentric man, Brittany, who offers them to either join the volunteer soldier squad to hunt monsters or starve to death. Each trainee was given 10 silver coins to survive until they were able to earn on their own and buy a volunteer soldier's badge. A party of strong individuals was formed by Renji, and the weaker ones bannered together under Minato. Each member then joined a guild to fulfill their roles in the party. Haruhiko, a thief; Minato, the leader and a priest; Yume, a hunter; Chihoru, a mage; Ranta, a dark knight; and Moguzo, a warrior. Done with the breakfast, the party once again embarks to hunt a lone goblin, but they are unable to find one. Hence, the party's 13th day in Grimgar passes with little to no money in their pockets. Unable to sleep that night, Haru wanders around the lodging only to find Minato, who just came back from the tavern after some information gathering. The two sit together and get to know each other better. Towards the end, he stares at the red moon, only to remember that the moon isn't red where he came from. The next day, once again scouting for enemies, the party manages to find a lone goblin by a riverbank. Without any form of coordination, their attempt at a sneak attack fails and Haru finds himself fighting the goblin alone amidst the confusion. The rest soon catch up and manage to surround the monster. They land a few blows on it, but it throws a knife impaling Haru's shoulder, though he drives a blade through its neck, and the party celebrates, but the goblin gets up. Frantically, Ranta pins it down and continues stabbing it even after it's dead. The scene shocks everyone since this is the first life they have taken. After gathering themselves, the party sells whatever they looted from it and goes shopping in the town. Minato even buys the shy Chihoru a hairpin. At nightfall, maybe to take his mind off of something, Ranta tries to sneak in the girl's bath. The boys apologize the next day for his actions, except the perpetrator himself, which earns him a well-deserved slap from Yume. This causes the rift between the genders to grow even deeper, but Haru manages to talk with Yume, bridging the gap a little. Unable to find even a single goblin for the next 3 days, the party changes their hunting grounds to Demuro, the ruins of an old city where goblins separated from their groups wander. And with luck on their side, the party manages to hunt several lone goblins in the ruins and sell the loot for money. They manage to make enough to buy new clothes, supplies, and weapons even. That evening, in the girls' room, Yume urges the shy and timid Chihoru to try and talk to the boys for the sake of the party. Meanwhile, in the boys' room, Haru thanks Minato for being the leader of their weak band of individuals, and they too fall asleep appreciating each other's friendship. Hence, the party's 23rd day in Grimgar ends. The next day, the party heads to Damuro to hunt down more goblins with their newly learned skills. Yume now uses a blade to aid in combat until she's proficient with the bow, and Moguzo makes up for his lack of agility with a powerful rage blow. Minato learns Smash to support everyone in combat despite being a healer, and similarly, every member has learnt skills to aid the party. While on break, the leader appreciates everyone's effort but seems to have forgotten about Haru. As the party heads to hunt again, Haru thinks about asking him later, but he suddenly notices the shine from a crossbow aiming for Minato. He rushes forward, taking the arrow to his shoulder. The party is ambushed by a group of skilled goblins. Amidst the confusion and a hasty retrieval, Haru drops his black-stained dagger. And just when it looks like they have clawed their way out, Minato falls to the ground with an arrow piercing his back. The party takes him to his priest master, but it's already too late. While the group is devastated, the priest urges them to cremate the body because in Grimgar, corpses turn into undead after 5 days due to a curse. The party heeds the warning and shares the expenses for a funeral and gravestone. As they are grieving for their fallen comrade, Ranta decides to leave, earning himself another slap from Yume. He spends his day at the tavern and is later joined by Haru and Moguzo. The three drink and argue, shoving the blame on one another. Due to the ruckus, a member from another party joins them, inquiring about Minato, and offers only apathetic condolences after hearing about his death, though he introduces them to a new priest, Mary. The next day, the party fails to communicate at all during the hunt, and Mary refuses to heal the members while fighting. Even Ranta is unable to argue with her. That day, once again at the tavern, the boys vent about her, but suddenly Renji shows up and offers 1 gold coin as a consolation for Manato's passing. Haru rejects his charity because Minato would never have accepted it. Adamant about bringing the party together, he decides to talk to the girls. While Shihiro is bathing, he apologizes to Yume about adding a new member to the party without talking to them. She tells him that isn't the reason she's frustrated about the lack of communication in the party. In frustration and anguish for Minato, she clings to Haru as tears roll down their faces. Shihiro opens the bathhouse window and misunderstands the whole situation because of the questionable position the two are in. The next day, after clearing the misunderstanding, the party decides to try and get along with Mary. As the next day passes, the members try to initiate conversation with her, and in return, she heals Moguzo's wound, but she clearly hasn't softened up yet. Later at the tavern, the party spots her, but no one tries to invite the other, though they notice her talking to the leader of another party. That night, Haru worries over his responsibilities as a leader, but after talking to an imaginary Minato, he decides to give it a go. The next day, he starts paying more attention to the fighting style and needs of his party. He even offers to buy Moguzo a helmet, and the rest chip in too. That evening, they invite Mary to dinner, but she still refuses them, though a lot more politely this time. The party decides to go talk to the person who spoke to her at the tavern and inquire. It turns out that a member of his party, Hayashi, belongs to Mary's original party. He tells them that she was always a happy girl and took the responsibility of healing her party much like Minato, until the day they faced a monster named Dead Spots in the Cyrene Mine. With 2 members of the party already dead, Hayashi carried Mary out of the mines as the third one stayed behind. She blames herself for the death of her comrades and hasn't smiled since. After hearing Mary's circumstances, the party realizes that they have much in common because, like her, they have also lost someone important. The next day, Haru musters up courage and calls her to talk. He explains the party's past with Minato and how dependent they were on him. Everyone tells her that they think of her as a friend now, and as days pass, slowly the group starts to get along. They learn new skills and get better gear, reaching a point where they become famous as goblin slayers. Haru starts seeing streaks of green light that guide him to deliver a precise blow on the enemy, finishing it in a single strike. Confident in their skills, they decide to finally avenge Minato. A night before the revenge battle, Haru is once again unable to sleep and starts talking with the imaginary Minato. Staring at the full moon, he realizes that he has lost count of their days in Grimgar, and he wishes to show his party to his fallen comrade. Finally, it's the day of battle. The party swears to not let anyone die, and even Mary, who has warmed up completely, swears to protect everyone. They commence their attack, taking care of the goblins on the ground floor without breaking a sweat. On the next floor, they encounter the heavy hitter of the group, a giant goblin, and the cunning leader. To the party's surprise, the monsters are well aware of human tactics and even magic. Moguzo and Shihiro take on the giant with the support from Mary. They manage to take it down with coordinated attacks. Meanwhile, Yume and Haru take on the leader, again thanks to the healer's assist. He manages to force a blade through the leader's hand, but it shoves him aside and runs to another room where the party finds it in a state close to death. Just as Ranta prepares himself to deliver the final blow, Mary is struck in the back with an arrow. The party is shocked, unable to believe that it's happening again, but she remains conscious and starts healing herself. The leader gets up, but Moguzo is able to deliver the final blow. Haru chases after the one with the crossbow. The two fight on the rooftop, but he forces the goblin to drop the black knife, and they wrestle down the roof pitch. It tries to choke him, but Haru drives the black dagger through its neck. With their comrade avenged, the party once again visits his grave and show off their volunteer badges, and they even bought one for Minato. After a tiring battle, the party decides to take the next day off, but Haru wonders what he can do with his free time. He strolls through town only to meet Mary at her lodging, and the two spend the evening talking to one another. The other members indulge in their hobbies as well. That night at the tavern, the party learns that Damuro is brimming with flocks of strong goblins due to their actions. Forced to change their hunting grounds, Haru suggests that they explore the Cyrene mine. Hearing that name makes Mary tremble, and she runs outside in a state of panic. He chases after her. She explains that the place is traumatizing, but she wants to overcome her fears, and asks him for help. He swears to help her overcome it. The party then starts preparing to explore the mine. Soon, the day arrives to explore the den of the kobolds, Cyrene Mine. Mary explains that the mine is housed by kobolds, lesser, normal, and elder, that are divided between 10 levels of the mine, with the former being the weakest and the latter being cunning and strong. The party manages to defeat 3 lesser kobolds on the first level with ease. Ronta rips off the nose rings from the corpses, which pisses Haru off because he wants to pay his respects to the dead. After descending the well, they spot a group of sleeping kobolds. Ronta jokingly suggests attacking them in their sleep, which makes Haru question his morality. For Mary's sake, the party retrieves after exploring level 2. That night, worried about Ronta, he calls him outside to talk. Despite trying to understand each other, the two end up arguing due to Ronta's self-centered attitude. The next day, the party once again heads to the mine, and utilizing their newly learned skills, they make it to the 4th level. But Ronta recklessly sets off an alarm that alerts the nearby kobolds, including the deadliest of them all, death spots. The sight of the behemoth paralyzes Mary, and the moment her old party set off for the mine flashes before her eyes. Haru's voice snaps her out, and she leads the party to a safe spot on level 5, Temple of Lumiaris. Just when the gang thinks they can rest, they are ambushed by 3 undead, but not just any undead. They are the reanimated corpses of Mary's old comrades that died in the mine. In order to free Og, Michiki, and Mutsumi, she fights on the front lines to cast Dispel, a spell that breaks the curse on undead. The party charges the trio of a warrior, mage, and a thief. Ronta manages to hold the warrior off long enough for Mary to cast Dispel by hugging him and free his soul. They manage to subdue the others similarly, and she thanks everyone for helping save her friends. The party respects the strength of her old teammates too. Just when the worst seems to have passed, they are ambushed by Deathspot, who howls to alert the nearby kobolds. Outnumbered, the party rushes to escape level 5. But suddenly, the scaffold collapses and Haru falls. Ronta manages to grab his hand, saving him. The two make haste, but the scaffold collapses again, and Ronta falls down. Though surrounded by kobolds, he stands strong in confidence. The party escapes to level 4, but they pledge to go save him. Ronta somehow manages to escape the clutches of death spots and reach level 4. He hides between 2 animals, but a nearby kobold notices his location and alerts the whole floor. Even Deathspot emerges, but the party notices Ronta's position. Yume manages to blind the beast's left eye with her last arrow, and the party flees the floor. They manage to reach level 1, and just when escape seems to be in their grasp, Deathspot emerges from the depth of the caverns, plunging itself up and cutting off the party's escape. Haru decides to sacrifice himself and forces the beast down with his scarf. Ronta shouts that he must make his way back as he faces Deathspot. He accepts that he will die, but is determined to fight until the last moment. Time suddenly slows down and streaks of green light emerge, guiding Haru's dagger to the beast's right eye, blinding it. His next blow breaks its sword, launching the shard through its belly. The behemoth falls as he loses consciousness. Upon opening his eyes, he finds himself next to Mary and asks her if this is heaven. This makes her laugh, and Haru is happy to see her smiling once again. The rest of the party is overjoyed to see him as well. Ronta flings a bag full of gold coins to him, the bounty for Deathspot. While celebrating at the tavern, Renji visits the party and apologizes for showing them pity. At the end, Haru visits Monoto's grave again and declares that his past life doesn't matter anymore. It's what he is now that matters to him. He'll continue supporting his party in order to survive and prosper in Grimgar. The end.